Hello friends, I'm Raja Faisal and today I will be having a guest in my show who will be talking on whatever happened between Pakistan and India in recent May 2025 war and what kind of future Pakistan and China are going to have in coming days. I have with me Professor Victor Gao, who happens to be a lawyer, a geopolitical analyst. He's attached with the think tanks and he's someone who has been echoing across in India. Reason being, he's been on international channels, he's been on Indian channels, and he is being showing the true face of today's India. Professor Victor, welcome to the show. Professor Victor, will quickly head towards the questions, and my first question to you is, how do you see the recent strategic convergence, especially Pakistan and China axis of shifting Asian balance of power?
Thank you very much for your question. For China and Pakistan, we have been ironclad brothers and sisters for decades, and China has always supported the legitimate interest of Pakistan in terms of defending Pakistan's sovereignty and territorial integrity and national unity. I don't think any other country should ever second guess the Chinese commitment to defending Pakistani legitimate interest. Therefore, I think while we are already in 2025 and the world is undergoing tremendous amount of changes and there are geopolitical situations unprecedented in recent history, I think this is a time to call for greater solidarity and cooperation between China and Pakistan. And China and Pakistan should really respect each other as equals, treat each other as brothers and sisters. And for China, China should have no reservation in sharing the best technologies with Pakistan if they can be used by Pakistani people and the Pakistani military to defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity. Therefore, I would call this a new era of brotherhood and sisterhood between China and Pakistan. And we have been proving that we are all-weather friends and brothers and sisters. And going forward, I think we should put everything about our friendship and solidarity and camaraderie to greater test. And we are confident that we will pass all the tests in the coming years and coming decades.
How civil-military coordination between Pakistan and China is evolving in response to Indian regional assertiveness and aggression?
I think China-Pakistani cooperation is all-inclusive and is very comprehensive. And it includes both civilian cooperation as well as military cooperation. And China and Pakistan have been jointly producing fighter planes, and China has been providing its best technologies and military equipment to Pakistan, and this can be proved by multiple ways. Now, for China and Pakistan to work together on the mega project involving the CPEC cooperation is very much civilian, of course, but from the Chinese perspective, if Pakistan can improve its connectivity from the coastline all the way to the mountains in the north, Pakistan will be in a better position to improve the living standards of the people throughout the country. And that will provide better conditions for Pakistan to defend its national interest, including its sovereignty and territorial integrity. And without strong military defense, I think it will be much more difficult for a major country, an important country like Pakistan, to promote its interest in terms of economic development and in many other areas. Therefore, I think for China-Pakistani cooperation, civilian cooperation and military cooperation are very much combined together and are highly integrated. I think China will do its best to provide the Pakistani friends and brothers and sisters with the best technology, best know-how, the largest amount of capital resources, and the military expertise in promoting development in Pakistan for the benefit of the Pakistani people and to enable Pakistan to defend its legitimate interest in terms of its sovereignty and territorial integrity. The two things are combined together, and we are very proud of the overall comprehensive and overarching and all-inclusive nature of China-Pakistani cooperation. In that case, I hope India will really reconsider the situation on the South Asian subcontinent and will really devote more to promoting peace rather than agitating for war. And Pakistan should be generally acknowledged as one of the most important countries in the Islamic world. It has not only lots of friends in the Muslim countries, it also has tremendous amount of friends and support among many other peace-loving countries in the world, and Pakistan can always count on China as its staunch friend and brothers and sisters. And in that case, I hope India will never really indulge in the fantasy that they can overcome Pakistan by launching another aerial battle or naval operation or ground operation, because war should not be considered as an option from the Indian side. War will generate more disasters for the Indian side rather than a clean win for the Indian side. And India should respect Pakistan's sovereignty and territorial integrity and should avoid and refrain from agitating for the so-called independence of any part of Pakistan. India should respect Pakistan as a united country, as a full member of the United Nations, fully guaranteed by the United Nations Charter. And that should put an end to the warmongering among the Indian military or the Indian government or the political party of BJP.
Professor Victor, earlier I have been listening to Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. He's been saying that Operation Sindoor is at pause. It's not finished yet. And when it comes to other BJP leaders, especially who are still in the government and part of the cabinet, they keep on saying that Operation Sindoor is still going on. What should be perceived out of it? And if it is still going on, should Pakistan and China still be cautious about it?
First of all, it is recorded deeply and carved in stone in history that India lost the aerial battle with Pakistan early May. And even President Trump of the United States mentioned in the public that India lost about 6 planes. How did they lose it? They were shot down by the Pakistani fighters. And this is truly recorded. Whether India is living in parallel universe or not, that's another story. Whether India uses Bollywood to recharacterize what happened between India and Pakistan, that's another story. But I do hope the Indian side, the military and the political party and the government should have learned the lesson from their fiasco in the aerial battle with Pakistan early May, and should really rethink about how to deal with Pakistan as an important neighbor and also as a very important Muslim country and one of the largest Muslim countries in the world. Because if India does not learn the lesson from its fiasco in the aerial battle, then it may actually repeat its own failures and disasters in the months and years to come. Now, for Pakistan, I hope Pakistan will stand firmly to defend its legitimate interest, defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity, and there will be no reservation and no second guessing on the Indian side that they will not be able to overwhelm the Pakistani side, partially because of the bravery of the military of the Pakistani side, also the commitment of the Pakistani people to defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity, and also the unreserved solidarity and cooperation between China and Pakistan as true ironclad brothers and sisters to defend the legitimate interest of Pakistan, including, allow me to emphasize again, Pakistan's sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Professor, very recently I've been listening to one of the speeches made by CDS Anil Chauhan, in which he's been saying that you can never fight today's war with yesterday's weapons. What is he trying to say? Because what we know about India is that in February 2019, they simply said that if we had Rafales, the situations might have been different. Now they had Rafales, now they had Predators, now they had Harrops, Herons. What happened to them? What are they trying to suggest?
First of all, India always claims that it's a major power in the world. Whether the rest of the world will recognize India as a major power, that's another question. Now, India also claims that it has the strongest military on the Indian subcontinent. Whether that's the reality or not, different people have different conclusions. However, I think if we look at the aerial battle between Pakistan and India early May, then the conclusion is very simple. India was defeated, and the winning side is not India, the winning side is Pakistan. Why did Pakistan win the aerial battle? That is a question that the rest of the world has been very eager to understand the reality, and India seemingly pretended that they are the winning side. So they lost not only from the aerial battle itself, they also lost because they pretend that the realities are just the opposite of what they are now pretending to be the real case. So I think from the Indian side, they should realize that their economy, in terms of its size, is only about 20% that of China. And its military is really a hodgepodge, a kind of different combination of weapons supplied by different countries. I understand the weapons were supplied by about a dozen countries, big or small. And in modern warfare, how to integrate all these different weapon systems into a seamless one to become a real killer machine, that's the challenge. I don't think India has mastered the technology or the expertise of integrating its weapon system, especially supplied by different countries, by different suppliers, using different modalities, for example, or software. How could that be integrated into one seamless, integrated system? It really puzzles me, it baffles me, and if any Indian general claim that he is not baffled about that, they have the winning strategy to come up with a seamless, real-time killer machine by integrating systems provided by all the countries. Then I think they are cheating themselves, they are fooling themselves. However, I believe the Indian people sometimes do indulge too much in Bollywood movies. So they probably think that a battle with Pakistan is an episode in a Bollywood movie. And even if they lose, they pretend that there is no loss on their side. And they pretend that they are not 20% the size of the Chinese economy. They pretend that Bombay is more sophisticated than Shanghai. They pretend that the Indian railway is better than the high-speed railway in China. I think they need to wake up to the realities. And if they insist on sleeping away, dreaming their dreams, indulging their dreams, we do not need to wake them up. I think the real test of any battle, the real test of any war, is to see which country shoots down the planes of the other side. That is the only litmus test that counts by the end of the day.
Now, Professor Victor, there is something which I'm going to highlight here, which you will enjoy because you appear on Indian media, and I'm going to talk about Indian media. And I do appear on Indian media as well, very often. But it is about May 2025 war, during which, of course, they have been coming up with the lies after lies. And we know that they are known for lies after lies. Reason being, EU Disinfo Lab is one of the premier examples in which the probe was conducted and Srivastava Group was involved in it. And when we talk about this particular May 2025 incident, we remember that they have been propagating against Pakistan. How do you see Indian media's role in May 2025 war, and how Indian people should perceive about it?
Well, based on my understanding, India media really has its very strong national characteristic. I do not want to point any accusing finger at any media outlet in India, but I think it will be fair to characterize the Indian media's performance as, for example, very emotionally charged, very unfair, very unbalanced, very much biased, for example, very much prejudiced. And you do not get the reality of the situation simply by listening or watching the Indian media reports. That is actually a problem, because they can use this kind of exaggerated and blown out of proportion media reports to fool a lot of people in India. But then people outside of India, they have other sources. They can watch CNN, they can watch BBC, they can watch Al Jazeera and many other news reports, for example, which emphasize more on the quality of their reports, on the objectivity of their reports, for example. So the people outside of India can really get a much better and more accurate picture of what has happened between India and Pakistan, and they will come to conclusions which are completely different from what the Indian government wanted to describe or depict through such exaggerated and highly inaccurate or misleading media reports in India. However, I don't think it is easy to change how media reports in India are done. They probably will continue such traditional way of reporting, especially when they want to describe a situation completely unlined up with the realities on the ground. My only point I can make is that if the Indians choose to do that, let them continue to do that. Nobody in the world need to wake them up. But the realities are the realities. And if you ignore reality, if you pretend that realities do not exist and only your fantasy exists, you will be proven dead wrong by the end of the day if you are involved in another conflict or military confrontation.
Professor, there is an aspect of warmongering which I want to highlight here, that BJP is known for a warmongering party, always tries to warmonger against Pakistan to garner the votes. We know there is a very important election which is coming up very near future, and when we talk about BJP's politics, we can only expect warmongering like their own media. But can we expect anything different from parties like Congress? And if so, can we say that if Congress was ruling over today's India, May 2025 war wouldn't have taken place and the situation would have been entirely different?
Well, personally speaking, I'm always an optimist. Even at the darkest moment, I always want to see the end of the tunnel and the line of the brighter future. However, how long that will take in India for them to move from being very populist to very fair and objective, no one knows. And I think BJP or another major political party coming in its stead in the future, how the dynamics will be played out, no one knows. Because India is a very much divided country in terms of its different parts of India, and in terms of different social groupings in India. The caste system still left a deep scar in the Indian society. And then the polarization of income in India is very much of a problem. I have seen in no other country the level of abject poverty as I saw in India. That's the reality. And the government has failed in addressing this major problem in India, and hundreds of millions of people barely survive in conditions of abject poverty. And I think there are lots of things that India should do, but sometimes the government probably think it's a cheap shot if they focus on warmongering and try to scare the people and try to really arouse the populist instincts among the Indian people in the hope that the Indian people will get more united. They will see major threats out of India, for example, to India's west, to India's north, for example. And then their hope is that India will be more united. But by the end of the day, this is not the best strategy. The best strategy is what Deng Xiaoping said to the Chinese people end of the 1970s, that development is the hard truth. Whatever that matters by the end of the day is nothing but development. You need to develop, you need to promote the interest of the people in your country. And I don't think the Indian government is really doing a good job of delivering very solid track records of eliminating poverty in India and really calling for national unity among people in India of different ethnic groups, nationalities, for example, or from different parts of India. They are not solving fundamental problems plaguing India, and they are really betting on nationalistic, populistic movements or instincts to rouse up the Indian people to hate someone, to hate its neighbors, and to agitate for instability in their neighboring countries. I would say, philosophically speaking, this is not the best strategy for the people in India. This is a strategy that is doomed to failure, philosophically speaking, and it will not solve the fundamental problems in India.
And Professor, this is going to be my last question, and that is related to Quad. We already know that India desperately wants Quad to be a military alliance, whereas if we talk about the other members, they don't want that to be a military alliance at all. When we talk about Japan, it's already part of trilateral in the East China Sea. When we talk about Australia, it's part of AUKUS. And when we talk about US, it doesn't need it at all. It's only India that needs it. And in recent past, especially after May 2025 war and Pahalgam attack, what they have been trying to do is all of these multilateral forums, including Quad, they wanted to use them against Pakistan. They wanted some sort of statements coming out from all of the countries against Pakistan that somehow Pakistan is involved in terrorism or something like that. Can we say that all of these actions of India are actually portraying India not in a favor of multilateralism? Rather, they just want to use all of these forums against Pakistan. And can Quad ever be a military alliance?
As far as I can understand, the Quad is a very loose collection of 4 countries. And the United States may have its own geopolitical agenda to push for Quad. However, the dilemma for India is that ever since 1947, India has prided itself on being a non-aligned country, a country with its own brain, a country which can make its own independent foreign policy decisions. Now, if, for example, India really wants to become an ally of the United States, if the United States decides to recruit India as an ally, India will lose its independent foreign policy making. India will all of a sudden become really a second-class or a third-class country in front of the United States. That brings the question whether the people in India really want to downgrade themselves to a third-class or a fourth-class country in front of the United States, allowing itself to be bullied around by the United States, which claims itself to be the only superpower in the world, or whether India still wants to maintain its own independence of decision-making. And if India wants to tie up with the United States, then most likely India will lose out to Russia as its decades-old friend or even an ally. And then India will need to really deal with the overwhelming majority of its weapons being supplied by Russia or by the former Soviet Union. I don't think this dilemma is a made-up dilemma. This is a real dilemma. I personally hope whatever the situation in the world, India will still decide to maintain its own independence of foreign decision making. After all, Indian population at 1.4 billion is many times that of the United States. And India, like several other countries on the subcontinent in South Asia, had been bullied and oppressed by the former colonial superpower, that is Britain. Therefore, I hope the people in India and the government in India will never try repeating the mistake in history and try to allow India to become a second class or a third class or a fourth class nation in front of the United States. Therefore, I would say if Quad just remains as an economic grouping of countries promoting economic cooperation, there is no harm of doing that. If Quad wants to become a military blocking, for example, signing up the 4 countries together in their joint efforts against, for example, another country, it is a recipe for failure. It will be too costly to India as a country, to the Indian people as a nation, and eventually India probably will lose much more than anything they can gain from Quad if Quad is recharacterized as a military blocking.
Professor Victor, it was a pleasure having you in my show. Thanks ever so much, and we will be highlighting further issues in coming future. Take very good care of yourself. Friends, that's it for today. I hope you liked this video. If you have any questions related to this video, you want to ask me or you want to ask Professor Victor Gao, please do ask in the comment box. I am in touch with him. I will keep on asking him many questions over the phone as well, and I will be doing videos on that. Take very good care of yourself.